Okay, so it's noon, so we'll get started with the introduction. If anyone straggles in after, we can let them in. So hi everyone, Happy New Year. We hope everyone got a chance to unwind and relax over the holidays. Welcome back to our webinar series. We saw a lot of success with these over the last year, so we're really excited to get things going again with these. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Charlotte. I work in marketing at Mindscope, and walking us through the system today will be Peter. He's one of our amazing training and implementation coordinators. So today we'll be doing a high-level general walkthrough of the system. However, for future sessions, we're hoping to dive into some more specific topics and features. So if there is anything you would like covered on a higher level for future webinars, feel free to leave them in the comments, or you can email myself or anyone on the Mindscope team, really, and we can definitely keep that in mind for future sessions. So just some housekeeping. As always, if you have questions throughout the webinar, you can leave them in the chat section and Peter can address them at the end. And if everyone can just keep themselves on mute for the duration of the webinar, just so we don't get any background noise, that would be greatly appreciated. So Peter, do you want to take it away?
Okay, hello all. I just clicked on share screen. Hopefully everybody can see that. I'm in the new UI in my demo database. By default, it opens up in the candidate module. And so what I want to show you is particularly one of the major changes that we've made between the old and the new is that there is no longer a left-hand side panel. So it immediately opens up into a results listing here, and there is no longer right clicking, so a little bit of savings in that regard. We have the modules available on the top now instead of at the lower left, and we have all of the usual things are available, but they're in slightly different places. So dashboard, for example, we have the dashboard widgets available. You can choose from client, candidate, or job order. They work the same way as they always have, and that is when you click on it, it opens up in all the various widget reports that you want. You can filter them as usual, and you can print them out. You can make a report. You can also take them off your view and refresh them later by clicking on the little refresh button over here. So the dashboard's the same. Next to that, we have
Peter. I think you're on the wrong screen here. I think we're looking at the Microsoft Teams.
Oh, my apologies. Let me try that again.
Now we're on Zoom.
Let's try it now. There we go. Can everybody see that? I'm in the widgets.
There we go. Yeah, perfect.
My apologies for that. Okay. So as I said, the widgets are available as usual, right here in the dashboard icon. Next to those are the usual, the job order, the client, and the candidate modules. What's new is that we have schedule as a module now, and I'll take a quick look at that. So schedule would be your schedule, each user's, and we have at the top, we have an activity to date, which you can filter for. You can look for all items. It's just loading, so give it just a moment here. What it allows you to do is you can choose what schedule activities you want to see. So notes, text, and emails, and so forth. It lets you look into those things. You can look at just your own items, created items, or all items. And you can choose your date range, last 30 days, today, next week, and so forth. And you can also play with whether it's the scheduled date or the entered date to take a look at. Okay, so that's your activities all in a line-by-line item. And then conversely, the same activities can be viewed in a calendar view just directly below that. So any of the activities that you've done, say today, I have 4 showing up here. I can look at this in a day view, a week view, or a month view. And if I wanted to, I could click on a blank date or any date and pop up a new schedule activity. So if I know on the 27th of January I have to schedule something, I can go there and just click on it. That's the My Schedule area. My Company is something for all administrators who are viewing this. This is where you would be setting your preferences, your global preferences for everyone to use, your documents that you want everyone to use. And this is especially important when it comes to our newest feature, which is the job order workflow. This is where the administrator is able to create workflows that are specific to perhaps perm jobs or temp jobs or specific to a particular company. So that I'll get into more detail a little bit later on. And then finally, the last icon up here is the tools module. Just as we have in the old, you have tools available here. I'll just switch us to what is one of the more popular ones, the job order schedule summary report. Notice that your criteria to pull the report all show up here. And at the very least, you'll be needing a date range. Just about every report requires a date range, so that's going to have to be put in. So you could choose, say, from the 1st of January to the 7th of January, and after that, any other filters that you wish will show up here to be chosen from. You can then view the report, email it to anyone you wish. Okay, and that's the basics of the icons along the top. I'm going to take a little bit more of a view, look at the view of the screen here. To the right of your module icons, you've got what is like a 9-pointed square. If you click on that, it gives you a quick access to various activities. So if you want to set up a schedule, you can click on it there. If you want to send an email, quick email form, or texting, if you have that activated, will be available here. Next to that, the bell is for any reminders that are going to be popping up for you that you set for yourself. And finally, what I call a little head and shoulders cartoon, that's the icon for your profile. When you click on that, it gives you the ability to log out or to manage your profile. And when you click on manage your profile, you get the following. You get the view of your profile. If you wanted to make changes, you'd click on the little pencil next to your name. That will give you your default view. And I have a slight lag here and should take a moment just to load. And this would be where you would change your password or any other details that might be important for you, time zones and so forth, just as in the old. One additional feature to know about is signature settings. We can now do the signature setting right here and just set that up for yourself. You have the ability to do up to 5, and just make sure you choose the appropriate one as the default. Okay. I'm going to head into the candidate area, but I will spend time towards the end of the session on job order workflow creation as well. So taking a look now at the view here of the candidate module, the first thing we see up here in the top left is the quick search bar. And let's take a quick look at one particular candidate. We want to search for Viola Great. We don't have to put in her full name. We can just put in a partial. So if I just did VIO space GR, I can look for that, or I can look for ID number, and that will still bring up everyone that has those parts in their name. And here we have Viola Great. So if I click on Viola Great, we'll navigate through into a particular candidate profile. And there are a number of changes that we've done here. So first of all, the layout is much more clean, much more easy to view. We still have our profile summary page. If you wanted to scroll down and see more, you could do that here. But if it's not enough, if you want to see more, you click on the little 6-pointed icon over here on the right, and that lets you select what sections you want to see. I want to see the original resume. I want to see activity to date. I would apply, and now those would also be available in my summary view. Notice that we get a little notice when things are saved or things are successful. So if I now scroll down, I'll have my activity to date will show. And I'll also have the resumes and the skills, all in view here. Okay.
I think I would just say, at this point,
The other items, I hear there's a K9 user on Mindscope. We have the same buttons that we have in the old UI for hot list and move to contact, delete, and print. We have added something new here called attach to job order, which is really interesting. When we click on that, we can actually select a client to lookup field if we wanted to, or we can search for a particular job order. So if I wanted to add Viola Great to my job order 234, Technology Sales Manager, I could do so. And I have a little button where I can either attach her to the workspace, in other words, where I'm still considering people, or I can put her directly into the pipeline where I'm actually doing the full triage. That's up to me. So that's a really interesting feature that we included now. That's basics of the candidate area. More interesting too is what we've done to the candidate listing overall. So I go back to my candidate listing and I view this. Let's take a look over here on the right, what we call our basic search. We've improved the basic search, so there's much more included in there. Our general information tab, our skills tab, and our customs field tab all can be incorporated into the same search as usual. But within general information, we have a lot more available. Not only can we look for names, phone numbers, email addresses, we can also look for availability, schedule activity as well. So for example, if I wanted to look for everyone who'd had a phone call, we'll go back to phone call, here we go. Everyone who'd had a phone call within a certain date range, let's say from the 1st to the 7th, I could be looking for that. Or I could be looking for anybody who's not had a phone call in that date range. I can add more to it. The Boolean search is available here too. So for example, if I was looking for anyone in sales, in their notes, in their resume, profile notes, I can include that in my search. We have the ability also now to review the search criteria. So if I click on review, I can see all of the criteria at a glance. Is there anything I need to change here? Well, I don't think so. It looks good. If we did want to change it, we could clear it, or we could go back and add more. So now if I want to search for these, I would click search and save. I could even give it a name before I search. Otherwise, it just uses the criteria to give it a name. So if I now search, I'm going to find these people here who have not only not had a phone call in the last week, but also have sales somewhere in their resume or in their notes. And notice that the ranking shows 100, which means that these candidates fulfilled both of those criteria. If I had made one of them optional, then I might have had only a 50% ranking. In addition, we have the options of looking not only at searches, which show up here to be reviewed, but we can look at hot lists like this, or we can look at all of our candidates like this. Notice too that with regards to searches, there are 3 dots. The 3 dots next to the name of the search allows you to make changes, whether it's in the searches or in the hot lists. They have the 3 dots that allow you to make changes, rerun searches, edit, and so forth. In addition, we've made some major changes to our columns in our results listings. So for example, if you had a lot more columns available, but you don't see them all, you can actually move the whole set of columns over to see what's been hidden from view. In addition, you can grab and move a column anywhere you like. So if I want company to be in a different spot, I can grab it and put it next to cities. And that will be the way it'll sit. These are preferences that will stay in place even when you log out and log back in the next day. In addition, you can add more columns by clicking on, like we saw with the summary page, you can click on column selector and add or remove whatever you like and apply that. So if I don't want office anymore, I can apply that and it'll refresh and office will no longer show. We have some additional very interesting things. I'm going to just bring us back to a full candidate listing that helps us to demonstrate this better. Within our results listing, let's say we've done a search and we've got way more candidates than we need. There's 150. We want to funnel that out. Rather than do another search, we can just use our filters here. We have filters. For example, in the title, if I use a filter and allows me to choose the contains or the does not contain or starts with, ends with, equals, etc., to filter out or filter in only those that have that. So I'm going to say contains and I'll say manager. So I want all those who have manager in their titles, and so immediately that's filtered just for manager. Notice too that over here my tabulation of 276 candidates shows me I'm now showing 12 out of those 276. A further filter when it comes to dates is interesting, because here you can filter for dates. You can go for the equals for one particular date, or not, or less than, greater than, or even a date range to look for everybody that has been, according to this column, last updated between January 1st and January 8th, for example. And a final filter that you can use here is our funnel. I'll see if I can find one that has a good here. So for example, the funnel is is applied to any column that uses a drop down. So the minute you click on that, well, it will bring up all your possible choices in the drop down, and so you can filter for only available, only in consideration, and that further funnels out or filters out your choices. So now we have 11 showing out of the 276. One other feature that's interesting to see here is that you can export this into a report. In the old UI, you'd have to create an ad hoc report, and that was more steps involved in that. Here, all you need to do is choose any or all of your candidates on the list and click on this icon here on the right, choose selected rows, and immediately you're going to have an Excel spreadsheet created for you. I'll just open that up to show you, and it will reflect all the columns that you have in view. Well, hopefully this will pop up soon. From here, I'm going to move us into my company. Here we go. This is the spreadsheet. Notice it's got all of those candidates I'd chosen. All the columns show up as headers here, and that's the easy way to export. Okay. So that's the quick review of the candidate area. The other two modules, both client and job order, the results listings are treated the same way. Again, you're going to have that option of dealing with all of your listings and filtering out and so forth. I won't go to clients for a full review, but I will take you into one interesting feature we've added in the client area. So if I click in client module, I'll show you, first of all, clicking on the client module now brings you immediately to the contacts. So kind of the reverse of what we had before in the old UI. The premise being that you usually want to deal with people rather than the company institution. But notice over here, we have the icon is highlighted in blue, which means it's the contact list. So if you hover over it, you'll see it, client contact list. If I want to switch it to the client view, company view, I click on this icon on the left, and it'll show me all my companies. And the specific feature I wanted to show you, let's say if I click on Lester B. Pearson School Board, what we've added to the view of the particular client profile is aliases. This allows you to add on any variations on the name of the company, so that when you're doing a search, you can look for both that company or the alias, and it brings you to the same profile. So if I click on this now, you can see you can either add a new alias or view existing aliases. There are none existing, so we're going to add a new one. And so for Lester B. Pearson, it would be LBP School Board SB. I would now save that. And so if I did a search for LBP SB, I would come up with Lester B. Pearson School Board. And if I now view aliases, I can see that there's a different alias. So I'll take us now to the job order creation area. Now, first of all, in my company, this is where you'll see how it's done. So administrators, this is where you should be paying attention. This is where you'll be creating job orders. So I have one already sitting here that I've created, but if you're going to create new, you click on the plus. And what happens then is you get this view. We've set it up so that you have up to 7 stages in a workflow that you can incorporate. You don't have to, but you have up to 7 available. By default, 2 of them are always going to be there, so you have to have a minimum of 2. These can be renamed. So screening process can be renamed pre-screen, for example. So if I call it pre-screen, I now want to add activities to it. So for my pre-screen, perhaps I want to add a phone call. I want to add perhaps an email to candidate. I also perhaps want to add the ability to reject the candidate. By the way, these are lookups, so the candidate's not interested in the job, you can indicate that with an activity. And if you don't think they're a good fit, then you can say rejected internally. So if I wanted to now make any of these required, that is, I want to make sure that everyone, all my users, are going to do this activity in the first stage, I can make it required. So all candidates in the pipeline have to get a phone call. Perhaps they also need an email. So if I make them both required, you suddenly get this option. You can either have them both be required or only one of the 2. So that's your option for creating the activities within a particular stage. And you would go on and create that same kind of setup for each of these stages, whether it's an internal or you're submitting to the client, or an interview, or background reference check, or finally to offers. Okay. You have the option of creating as many workflows as you like. So if I click out of this and go back to my company job order workflow, notice that I have created 7 different workflows, and I've actually made one inactive. I found it wasn't useful, so it no longer is an option for my users to choose for the creation of a new job order. Okay. So how do we use this? Well, straightforward. Let's go into the job order module. In the job order module, you've got the options of how to create a job order. You can either do it manually with the entry wizard, or you can do it via document, adding a job order from a job description you got from your client, or you can clone. And the cloning feature has been made really interesting in this case. It looks a little different, and it works like this. When you click on the cloning, it gives you this page here. Now, you can choose a particular client to look in for the job. So if I wanted to, for example, go to XYZ, I can choose job orders within XYZ Technologies. These are lookup fields, so I can just type in a couple letters, or I could type in the number. And if I wanted to choose Sales Manager 231 to clone, I can either create it within XYZ Technologies one more time, or I can put it to a new client. So ABC, I can add it to ABC Technologies. What we definitely have to do here is we have to choose the job order workflow. How are our people going to treat this particular job order? What are the candidates going to have to do in terms of activities? Well, is it job order 7? I can check which job order workflow, what it looks like, by clicking on the eye. It shows me the template. Is this the right one? I need a phone call. I need an internal interview. No, it's not the right one. I'll go to a different one. I'll choose standard job order workflow number 6. Let's see. Yeah, that's better. I'll choose that one. So now I know which workflow to apply to this. And by the way, you can set these up to be for a perm position, or for a temp position, or for a temp to hire, or for a particular company. All you need now is to choose which client or contact you need to deal with the job order, and you can go ahead and clone. So now that you've created a particular job order, and I won't do this because I have one set up to look at already. So let me take us right to that. So I have job order 234, technology sales manager. There it is. Actually, I had it. The view of the job order is such. We have the title over here. We even have a tab for any applied candidates coming in, showing right here. And the details in a brief look right here. And most interesting of all, in the center of your screen, you can see all the phases or stages showing up, as well as if we have any candidates in those stages. So I have one person in the screening process. I have one person in the interview process. How did I get that? That's from my workspace. So if I go to my workspace, I can see that I have no applied candidates at the moment. I do have 3 that I attached manually. I have 1 rejected, and I have a recent search that I did for sales with 4 people in it. And how to do that search? By the candidate match. The candidate match button over here gives you the same search field, but will attach those candidates that you find to the workspace. Notice now I am showing some candidates here. These were the ones from the manual list, from which I had 3, but I'm not showing 3. And why is that? Well, it's because I've already put one of them into a pipeline. The workspace is an area where you kind of, like a carpenter, you're putting the parts together. You're assembling, if you will. And then once you've got them, you move the ones you want into the pipeline to be treated. So if I want to see who on this list I've already put into the pipeline, I can click on the show pipeline candidate, and I show my 3rd candidate here. Okay. How do I treat and how do I put people into the pipeline? If I click on any candidate, I now have the move to pipeline button activated, and that lets me put them into the pipeline. So Campbell Hackney, notice I get a little notification, candidate moved successfully. And now I only have 1 more person sitting in the workspace from the manual list. If I look at my pipeline now, go to pipeline candidates, Campbell Hackney shows up, as well as all the others that I've put in my pipeline. And this is where your activities are going to take place. You're going to take action by clicking right here. And so Campbell Hackney, for example, I have no choice. I have to make a phone call. So I get my activity showing up. I'll put in that I've completed it and save it. So he can now be moved to the next phase because I've done the 1 required action. So if I move him, he goes to the internal. I can, though, if I want, because there's no requirements elsewhere, I can move him all the way to the offer stage at this point and actually even place him right here. If I've moved him to the last stage, I'm able to place him right away. With regards to actions, we can also do more than 1. So Kayla Smythe, for example, if I wanted to, I could, she's in the interview phase. I could be setting up the interview and I know right away that the client rejected, so I could do them both at the same time. Click next. They both show up here. I could put my notes in with regards to the interview requirements, and then I could go to the rejected by client activity, put in my notes, not a good fit for the client, save this, and I've done 2 activities in one shot. Okay. And of course, when someone is rejected, they get moved to an inactive list, which will show up. They're no longer considered for that job. A final thing I'd like to show you here is also to do with the workflow area, is the all updates. And this all updates lets you see at a glance what's been going on in terms of activities with the job order. So you can see by scrolling down all of the activities that have been done, or you can even filter this. So if I wanted to filter, I could filter it for the stages. If I just want to see those in screening or those in internal or submit to client, I could do so. If I want to look at any activities done by a particular recruiter, any recruiter or user that has created an activity would show up here. Any staff want to see just the ones that were completed, or even if a date range, I could show that. So I could choose a date range, and this is with the all updates. So I hope that's been an interesting session. I'll pass it back to Charlotte.
Thanks, Peter. That was awesome. Got quite a few questions here actually in the chat, so I'll just start firing them off.
Okay.
So someone asked, are scheduled activities entered in the old Mindscope captured in the new UI?
They are. We have one situation where the times are not the same, so it's preferable to enter it in the new UI.
Okay. Cool. And now a couple people are saying that their system doesn't yet show the My Company or Tool section. Is there a reason for that? Is it just because of the updates, or?
Well, there's 2 reasons there. One, those who are not in the administrator user group will not see the My Company module, and that's intentionally so, because that's anyone who has the ability to get in there can make global changes. So that's reserved just for administrators. The tools area, I believe that there's an update there where the tools was only available to administrators on the last build, and very soon, I believe it's in the next 4 or 5 days, I'm not sure of the timeline, but that's going to be corrected and be available to all. And by the way, the tools area is still in development, so there will be more reports that will become available over the next weeks and months. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Let me see here. So someone has said that currently candidates added to the shortlist in the old Mindscope are not loading into the pipeline in the new UI. Would there be a reason for that?
That's a good question. If it's possible to take a note of that, I will find out, because sure. I haven't worked with the shortlist in the new UI, so that's something I'll have to find out for you.
Okay, sure. I'll make a note of that and I'll shoot you off an email after.
Thank you.
So one of our user says that their company automatically adds their signature in Outlook. So if you add a signature in Mindscope, does it add both signatures at the same time?
Well, there's a preference setting on where you're sending the emails from. If you're sending from Mindscope, it'll be the Mindscope signature. Right. If you're sending from Outlook, it'll be the Outlook signature.
Okay. Perfect. And another issue that someone found in the column selector, does not have age as a choice in the job order module, in the job seeker match. Is that something that they can add themselves, or?
Good question. Typically, I'll be honest, we don't see a lot of people that are using age these days. Mm-hmm. So I'm not familiar with where it shows up, or if it's something that is perhaps been ignored for the new UI. A good question that we'll have to follow up on.
Okay, sure. I'll send you those two after the second. Now there's a couple questions related to emailing.
Mhm.
Can you add images to your email signature in Mindscope?
No, that is in development.
Okay.
For now, it's just text, but they're actively working on that. So we expect that to be included in an upcoming build sometime within the next month.
Okay, perfect. And when you email and the receipt responds, does it go to your Outlook or Mindscope?
Well, that depends if you have synchronization. We have our tool, perhaps, I hope everyone is aware of it. If not, it's the Outlook plugin tool, which allows for a synchronization between Mindscope and Outlook. And if you have that, then everything you receive in Outlook, if it's recognized as a client contact or a candidate in Mindscope via the email address, it will synchronize automatically into Mindscope, into the particular profile it belongs to. If you don't have the synchronization, then no.
Okay, perfect. And okay, one last question. Can a switch be turned or can a switch be added to turn off the open a tab for every screen that we view?
That's actually, that came up in discussion this past week with development. They are looking at creating, see if I can remember the technical term, I think it's subtabs, so that it becomes a pop-up. It's not available yet, but there's going to be some redesign of that coming up. So we're just actively looking at ways to improve this, and you're probably going to see that happening continually over the next few months.
Okay, awesome. And sorry, there's just one last one.
Sure.
This is in regards, I believe, to the Excel spreadsheet. Can you put restrictions on who can export and how much they can export?
We can't put a restriction on how much they can export, but we can restrict who exports.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be the administrator would need to go into application security settings. Just send us an email on the side for whoever is interested in that, and we can show you easily how to do that.
Perfect. Okay, so if there are no more questions, we will wrap up today's session. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. Thank you to Peter, and we'll see you next time. We'll send out a newsletter for the next session. It will be in 2 weeks from today.
Excellent. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.